Hello and welcome back to the Masonic Roundtable, a weekly hangout where Masons from around the world get together to talk about Masonic news and opinions in a friendly and social manner. The standard disclaimer applies. The thoughts and opinions expressed here are solely the opinions of the participants and do not represent any Grand Lodge statements or positions. Make sure you keep your conversations open for the public and on the level. To interact with us, send questions and comments to our Twitter page at Mason Roundtable or on our Facebook event page for episode 121, Ciphers. And as usual, my name is John Ruark, past master of the Patriot Lodge, number 1957, in Fairfax, Virginia, and we are dark for the summer. So no more meetings until September. Nick, introduce yourself, please.
I'm Nick Johnson, past master of Corinthian Lodge number 67. We are dark, but we did still have an amazing waffle breakfast. It was delicious.
Awesome. Are you guys known for your waffle breakfasts?
We are now, because they're Belgian waffles, international style. What?
Nice. And last but not least, small crowd tonight, Jason Richards.
Hey, question, Nick. Do those Belgian waffles have amity with Tennessee and Georgia?
Well, there was a multitude of colors on the table of syrup, so I'm thinking not.
Almost as bright as Jason's bow tie tonight.
So I just gave a presentation at Waverly Lodge 51 on the Noahide foundations to the third degree, and felt it necessary to come dressed in the colors of the covenant made by between God and Noah after the flood, as well as in solidarity for all of our good friends down in Orlando. So with that said, my name's Jason Richards, and I am still the senior warden of Acacia Lodge number 16 in good old Clifton, Virginia. We are not dark, although I haven't been to Lodge in about 3 weeks due to vacation.
There you go. They were dark, missing you.
Yes.
Okay. Masonic news this week.
Wouldn't say I've been missing it, Bob.
Of course you miss Lodge.
Oh, I do.
That's right. Okay, hey, first piece of Masonic news. As mentioned multiple times before, this Friday is the last day to get your survey completed at the 2016 Ultimate Freemasonry Survey, which can be found at tinyurl.com/Masonic Survey. It's tinyurl.com/Masonic Survey. Bring your phone to Lodge, bring your phone to another brother. You can do it right there. It only takes about 5 or 10 minutes, and we've had great responses, but we will be closing it on an arbitrary date, meaning this Friday, which is also St. John's Day. So everyone, happy St. John Day in advance. That is John the Baptist. If you want to learn more, go back and listen to our John the Baptist episode. But over the summer, I'll be compiling the results and putting together a very detailed presentation, which I hope you guys will enjoy. So stay tuned for that. No ETA on that, just as time allows and fatherly duties allow. But again, Friday is the last day. We'll be accepting no more responses until maybe next year. We'll probably do this again annually based on the results and the turnout. Next up is something that I found fascinating. This was shared in a couple of Masonic groups over the past week, which is the one and only Dan Brown is donating to a Hermetic library in Amsterdam to digitize over 4,600 manuscripts that relate to the Hermetic arts, which this is really fascinating that Dan Brown, although not a Mason, has gone on record to say that he really supports what the Masons do and the philosophy and the the core underpinnings, which of Hermeticism, alchemy, all those things we've referenced before in the show are an aspect of the influence of Masonry. And so I found it fascinating. He just flat out admitted that he's really into this Hermetic, these Hermetic arts, and that so much that he's donating his time and more importantly money to digitize the works that they have in Amsterdam. I think
Why did he go with this particular library over? I'm just trying to Was there any particular reason that it mentioned why he chose this one in Amsterdam versus, I don't know, the Philosophical Society in Los Angeles or something like that?
It didn't, but they've had this effort called the Hermetically Open project instead of Hermetically Sealed. That's hilarious. Hermetically
Ew.
Open. They've been doing this since 2012, and they've been taking the time to digitize. They have, it seems to me, just reading through their site, that they have the largest collection of hermetic alchemical text.
Gotcha.
So if you're going to start with somewhere big, I think that's the largest resource I think that's available.
Awesome. That's really exciting.
Yeah, that's so cool. I can't wait to get my hands on on those digital copies. And that's one of the great things about Masonic research. So much of the older text regarding Masonry, even Mackey and Pike, are available digitally. A lot of the older authors like Mackey, Manly P. Hall, and others are out of their copyright period. So you can find PDFs of them pretty much anywhere on the internet. So you can do a lot of great Masonic research without having to break your piggy bank open.
Yeah,
Means Nick has more money for petitions.
Yes. Oh man, you got my fingers going again. I got to sign something. Anything, checks, paper, anything.
check out to me. First name Cash.
Oh, Cash! I've never joined that one. What do you think about it? Is it pretty good? You like it? Is it awesome?
But it's worth it.
Only $1,000? Oh my God! Is that just dues? Sweet.
So good on Dan Brown. I think that's really fascinating that he's contributing to that effort, because you really don't hear much about Hermeticism in the public in the first place, and that an author of his stature would do that. So that's great.
Well, Dan Brown has long been very supportive of Freemasonry, to the point where he said on numerous occasions that he would join the order were it not for the obligations, just because he wouldn't be able to write about Freemasonry if he had to obligate himself not to reveal the secrets of the organization.
What a jerk.
Interestingly enough, though, Scott Wolter, who also happens to be a writer of Masonic things, he originally said the same thing, but I believe, well, I know, because I was at one of his degrees, he is now a Freemason in the state of Minnesota. So, there you go. So, come on, Dan. Don't be that guy.
And his books have been redacted.
Yeah, exactly. One of us, we accept her, one of us. There we go. Man, a meme come to life. You're welcome, people.
And last but not least, for Masonic news, in our good old friend Brother Chris Hodap's blog, there's some rumblings from Arkansas where a sitting Grand Master of Masons in Arkansas has suspended not one but two either current or previous Grand Line officers. That's specifically the Deputy Grand Master Patrick Carr and the past Grand Master Jared Adkisson for unspecified Masonic charges. We don't know all the details, and Brother Chris tries to make sure that these things are kind of out in the public before he puts them on his site, so this isn't really insider baseball. This is stuff that's been kind of out in public knowledge by now, at least within Arkansas. But, I mean, this is kind of crazy that we have... we debated on whether or not to talk about this tonight. My point is this, is that this kind of stuff needs to be exposed for what it is, in the sense of absolute power corrupts absolutely. We've talked about the benevolent dictatorship structure that we have. Most jurisdictions follow a slightly different form than Robert's Rules of Order, and so what that means is when you're master of your lodge, you have total control of everything in the lodge, as well as Grand Master of a state. So here's an example of just at the drop of a hat, you can suspend multiple brothers now for whatever.
Ostensibly. You know, we're looking at this, and we don't have the full picture, obviously. Um, but this kind of thing, not to cut you off, John, I apologize. This kind of thing is happening, you know, in multiple jurisdictions. We've heard in the past several months, we've heard things coming out of New Jersey where there are folks that are, you know, trying to change the Constitution just so that the Grand Line doesn't have the power to expel at will, and these are things that we're going to have to come to terms with as we become much more of a transparent organization, because you can't just sweep things under the rug anymore, as we've seen from Tennessee and Georgia.
Well, and it's kind of interesting. Is actually I was chatting on Reddit, and the one of the brothers, I don't know if I should, I don't remember his name, thankfully. So you can't catch me if you try to get me. But what happened was he had essentially explained that in Arkansas, these grandmasters are given plenary power to expel at will, just like you were saying. And every time it's brought up that they need to change the Constitution because that's not right, because it's not, it gets ruled out of order by the Jurisprudence Committee, saying that it's not drafted properly or blah, 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 blah. Essentially allowing past grands to kick a football away and make sure that it never, ever sees the light of day. Now, if that's actually true, that's damning. Let me just say it that.
And then the
It's
people
damning.
who brought it up get expelled.
Yeah, exactly, and that's exactly what he said. He said that then after that happens, they get expelled. That's not right. And the thing about it is that after a while, you can kick so many people out, but after you do that, no one will be left. So stop it. Seriously.
If you don't
Stop
learn to share, no one's going to want to play with you anymore.
Exactly. Well, and that's the thing. The younger Masons, they're not going to put up with this.
Right.
They don't care about hierarchy. They're just going to sit there and say, fine, I've got 1,000 other things I could do, including, I don't know, Xbox One, PlayStation 4, anything else? Seriously.
Netflix, Daredevil.
I know. It's like, come on.
Deadpool.
Deadpool for the third time today. Just saying.
So again, here's a little bit of the hypocrisy of brotherly love, right? I mean, if you really go back to the tenets, then this stuff shouldn't be allowed to happen, like you said, but from jurisprudence, or the laws. But here we are.
Mm-hmm. Well, and personally, and this has always been kind of my opinion, is that I don't think Masonic trials should have ever been taken from the lodge level and brought up to the grand level, because that was just that encourages bad behavior.
Well,
and it encourages.
I agree with you. However, that I'll add that some of the other recent in the past 3-4 years, high-profile Masonic trials have not been held fairly. Mm-hmm. Specifically to include, a lot of the homosexuality issue that happened last fall, that the brother was denied an actual Masonic trial, and then you had the same thing happen in West Virginia with Most Worshipful Haas, that he was denied a trial, I believe. So, you can have it written down, you're allowed a trial, and then when the Grand Master changes the rules, then what happened?
Yeah. See, I would suggest
I demand trial by combat.
Oh man, yes. I choose a champion, not me. I'm slow and fast.
Mine.
Yeah, exactly. But that's the thing, is actually I might say take a page from Minnesota's trial jurisprudence that's in our code that you can find online. And if you look through it, it's very good. It's very well done. It focuses on due process. It removes the process out of the hands of people at the lower levels, people at the higher levels. It creates a separate judicial function that you can run through, and it focuses on the idea of due process and the right to be heard. Now that, personally, it's one of the best things that we do in the Minnesota Code, and I really suggest people check it out because it's one of the best I've seen.
Great. So that's those are the highlights For this week's Masonic News, let's move into everyone else's favorite Masonic trivia section, which is the Masonic Monday question.
On Tuesday.
On Tuesday.
Whoa. Domine Patris Spiritus Sancti. All right. That was good. All right. So I was kind of bad, and I didn't write down all the people who got the correct answer. So instead, I'm going to be putting it on the website. I've been traveling for work, so I haven't really had time to get to that section. But I do have the question, and I know everybody wants to hear that. And don't worry, guys. I know some of you are just scratching. I can hear it. You're scratching at your eyes, demanding justice for answering the question right. And I you know what? I love you guys, and I'm gonna have it happen. But anyway, here's the question for you. In Sweden, there was a fraternal order founded in 1653. It was created by Christina, Queen of Sweden, on the day of Epiphany. This order was highly regarded, but it was also a very difficult knighthood to hold, as you had to remain unmarried. It was finally dissolved in 1656, but in 1873, a Masonic order revived it. What is the name of the Swedish fraternal order? And also, what is the name of the Masonic order? When you have an answer, send it to masonicmonday@gmail.com. Don't forget to include your lodge name, your lodge number, and the hashtag Argentina. Ugh. Back to you, John.
Is that 7
So
pages?
so how do you say Catholic Church in Swedish?
A Katolika? I don't know. Katolika. See, this is the only Swedish I know. It's burka, 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 burka. You know, and then you got your hands and you're cooking. Lobsters are singing.
I know IKEA. That's Swedish.
And all those beautiful names like Prusen. Prusen.
See,
I love that one.
we're never going to get in Swedish right with that kind of attitude.
Well, who knows? Maybe I just said the secret password. Maybe I'll just start yelling out Brudkurven, and all of a sudden they'll be like, password. All right, let him in. Call him right now. Get the plane.
Or you'll never be heard from again.
Yeah, pretty much.
Mafia.
They have swords. They do have swords. And hidden chambers, so. If you don't hear from me next week, I am dead.
Good
Call
stuff.
the authorities.
Hold a vigil in your honor.
I'll light this candle back here for you. Oh wait, I always like the candle. So it's a preemptive memory candle. Okay, moving on. Let's get to this week's topic, which is ciphers. I think it covers the breadth of the things we like to call ritual monitor books, ciphers, or cipher books. And what we'll do is we'll start for those who aren't uninformed of what they are and how we can use those, and kind of the pros and cons. So we'll start with really monitor books, because some states have elected to write their ritual down. And yes, that means sometimes including the secrets or mysteries of Freemasonry in small books that brothers can take home and use as references. We've talked a lot about the memorization of the time and the work it takes to dedicate to the ritual of Masonry, but in modern days, that a lot of that stuff has started to be written down, so it makes it easier for use. Now, Nick, do you guys have monitors?
We have both, actually. We have, well, it's not really a monitor, it's a cipher. We have the cipher, and that's encoded.
That's the next step, right?
Yeah, so we'll get to that, obviously. And then on the other hand, we have a lot of the lectures in what's called our Masonic manual. A lot of the lecture is written in plain text in the Masonic manual.
Okay. So why would one use a ritual book, Jason?
So Virginia has a monitor. It's our manual of work. And Nebraska does as well. I have the Nebraska monitor as well. And I think a lot of it comes with when you have a jurisdiction that really only has one printed copy of the ritual, and it's in a safe somewhere at the Grand Lodge, you need to make sure, especially for the longer passages in the lectures, that everybody's getting things right. And I don't know if that's the real reason why Virginia has a manual of work or not.
Yeah, and so I really wouldn't consider that a monitor in the sense that our manual of work really just takes paragraphs here or there that aren't too sensitive and
Right.
writes those down. And so it really leaves a lot out. And so the ballpark would probably be it really writes down about 10%, maybe.
Oh, it's like 2 to 3%.
Yeah, even less than that. So I really wouldn't call that a monitor in the truest sense of how other states have done it. And
So you're talking more like Duncan's.
Yeah.
well, yeah, I mean, Pennsylvania has their entire lectures written all the way out, and so that's an example that's in clear text. Anyone can read it. If it's lost on the side of the sidewalk, someone can pick it up and read 95% of their ritual. And so, and by the way, Jason and I are from Virginia. Monitor books like that are forbidden. That we can't have anything written down because we are still a mouth-to-ear state. That most of the stuff that is contained within our rituals have to be conveyed and stored right up here and right out of here.
Yeah.
So let's talk about cipher books then. When you have a monitor that is encoded in a certain way, it now becomes a cipher book. So Nick, you said you have those as well.
Sure, and I should make this kind of historical distinction, but the work that most of us use is Preston's, right? That is then filtered through Webb and his protege Cross. Now, the thing that's kind of funny is that Preston had no problem writing down all of his lectures. So if you look up right now, you could probably find, I'm trying to remember what it's called. Not Meaning of Masonry.
Illustrations or
Illustrations of Masonry. There we go. And that's Preston's lectures. You can read. If you look at them, they look very similar to like the Masonic manual that I have and stuff like that. He wrote those down.
and he got expelled for that.
Yeah. He was and Webb he copied that in his Freemason's monitor, right? And so this writing down of ritual was forbidden, but it wasn't forbidden because there was a desire to have a standard work. And so the reason that they
reinstated, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And when he was
So
reinstated.
good. Okay.
You know what that teaches you? Never go in a parade in your apron without asking Mother if you may.
He crossed the street in his apron and got expelled.
I know. Seriously. To a church. Seriously. Anyway. But
Preston.
Yeah, Preston. Much love, man. But that's the thing. It's like
For more insight on that, see our religious observances episode.
yes, the Mason's words. But that's kind of the funny thing is that Preston was very focused on standardizing work. Webb was extremely focused on it. And then and in the Midwest we have this third tract that went by, and that was the Rob Morris, Poet Laureate of Freemasonry, who was focused in the conservator work, right, the conservative movement. And his whole purpose was to essentially have these wandering conservators making sure the work was proper after the Baltimore Convention. And essentially it was his work that he had written down. And it was going to be all the Grand Lodges would all look the same. You'd go from cross state lines and all look the same. And of course, anytime you tell Grand Masters that they have to all be the same, all of a sudden they rebel because that's just what they do, and that's okay. But the funny thing is, and there's a paper in Minnesota, and I'll have to find it and maybe post it later, that actually shows that the work that he had, and so in Cipher you've got the cipher text, which is what you were talking about, that's encoded. Some of them are single letters, some of them are double letters, some of them are funny characters, some of them are full words, except for certain parts. But at least with Rob Morris's conservator work, he had two parts: the mnemonic and then the other part. So you'd be able to read it by having both of these, right? And he was ostracized in the state of Minnesota. Ironically enough, though, in 1869, when our ritual was standardized, the work looks surprisingly similar to his work, including the spelling mistakes. So thanks, Rob.
That's funny.
Yeah. So that's, it's a long story to lead into that. Yeah, the idea of cipher and standardized work and cipher, they run hand in hand. That's the whole concept behind it, is that you want a standard work so that every lodge is doing the same work all the time, and the cipher is supposedly supposed to do that.
So the answer is yes, you have a cipher. That's a long answer. But for later, we're not going to show any on screen because it is part of the secrets that we have here. But ciphers are encoded usually by writing down only the first letter of words that are normally said, and so you have to kind of have previous knowledge of what the words are to then give you those little triggers along the way, those little memory triggers. Okay, I can make up most of the sentence. Oh, that word must be blank.
Interestingly enough, John, the Grand Lodge of Massachusetts actually doesn't use the first word as their cipher. It's actually a little bit more complicated than that. I was discussing that with Brother Scott Sherman last week when we were up touring the Grand Lodge of Massachusetts.
So here's where I go on my tangent, right? As a guy with a master's degree in information security, all you've done is just encode the information, not encrypted the information. Now, this is like what you call poor man's encryption, right? That back in the day, if a lot of these things were written down to protect the information, right? You want these things to be accessible, but not accessible to the general public. So what you do is you obfuscate, you confuse, you mix up the words, but you still may have to have a little bit of prior knowledge, like I said, but it's still anyone with time and energy could figure it out, even if they weren't a Mason. And so encoding information is immensely less secure than encrypting the information, right? Which is something we could do today. If there was a very progressive Grand Master today who wanted to let the Master Masons have their secrets digitally, you could do things like do digital rights management, you could encrypt files, you could do all sorts of public key infrastructure kind of things, such that files will self-destruct if they're not in ownership of the brother anymore, or if a brother gets expelled, you could pull the digital rights of that file so they can't read it on their Kindle or anything anymore. Lots of ways you could do that, but that is true encryption. Vice just kind of, okay, let me just jumble the letters up a little bit.
So Grand Lodges just got around to scanning barcodes of dues cards for admissions. Like when you're talking about a role-based access, at the Mason level, I think we've got a little ways to go.
Dude, I would just love to just lay out a public key infrastructure. I mean, I have a whole paper written up here in my head about how we could do this securely and digitally, do real-time secure virtual lodge sessions. Oh, I got it all figured out.
Oh, Masonic PKIs.
But until then,
yeah.
cipher books are kind of lame in that aspect because, again, if it gets lost, the average person will give up, but a determined person could still figure out our ritual. So it's kind of a poor man's encryption.
So, but at the same time, John, the average person could just go to Duncan's Ritual Monitor online or Stitching Argus or any number of other places where the rituals are replicated in their entirety.
Remember the Morgan affair? We're going to have the Richards affair.
The Richards affair, yes.
Yeah, yes, you're right.
Is that a threat? I think that was a threat. I'm very uncomfortable right now.
I am too. I don't know.
But it's the tie.
It's the tie, yeah. So I think ritual books are, as far as ciphers, are actually pretty valuable and pretty useful in the sense that Look, in Virginia, and this is not a knock against anyone in the grand jurisdiction, but committee on work members and those who have like gold and silver ritual cards who have memorized almost every single word in the mouth to ear ritual disagree with each other on different points of the ritual. And it's because there's like only one printed copy of the ritual and like only one person on the face of the planet has access to it.
That's a good point.
So, as far as ritualistic integrity is concerned, I think having a cipher is a way to ensure that the work that's being done across a grand jurisdiction is actually being done 100% correctly, or at least as close to that as possible. Much more so than someone saying, well, I remember talking about this with the committee of work back 6 months ago, and we agreed to disagree.
Sort of talked about, if my memory serves me right, no, your memory will never serve you right.
Well,
So, go ahead, Nick.
I should say, though, in a cipher state, we still have schools of instruction. And guess what? Even though it's plain language, not even kidding, plain language, Board of Custodians or whoever will still find a way to disagree. I don't know how. I want to know how. I mean, seriously, I sit there and go, no. The word is superficies, not superficies, not super blah blah blah. No. And I one time, and this is going to be a hilarious story. Custodian was telling me that I was pronouncing a word incorrectly. I pointed to the code and said, according to our code, it says Merriam-Webster's is the actual pronunciation for the state. And I pulled out my phone, and I typed in the word, and I hit the play button, and I said, listen. He said, well, I don't care what Miriam says. Not even kidding.
Oh.
I'm technology.
Had to be over 30, I'm guessing.
So ritual ciphers can't fix stupidity.
No.
But they are a good way of putting enough obfuscation in there to discourage the casual observer from trying to learn the secrets of the ritual, while maintaining ritualistic integrity better than a mouth-to-ear state would.
Now, I'll also give some full disclosure. The parts of the ritual that were written down, I found to be extremely beneficial in trying to be, a working husband, father, as well as learning the ritual as well. So, yes,
I disagree.
I benefited. You disagree that I actually benefited? That I benefited from having some of that stuff written down in plain text, because then I could easily, just bring it up as I'm at a stoplight and just open it up and take a peek and go through it in my head there. So would I find advantage in that, having a cipher book in Virginia? Sure. But is that the right thing to do? So, we as Masons are not supposed to give away or write the secrets of Masonry down. Is that kind of fudging the line?
Definitely.
Yeah.
But, the thing is, it's like you sit there and you go, what we say and what tradition says, completely disagrees. I mean, we were writing down this ritual. We literally were writing it down.
Mm-hmm.
And so, we have this side, but then we wrote something in our obligation many years ago that literally obliterates the idea of even doing such a thing. And so, yeah, honestly, I don't think they were ever intended to both coexist.
Mm-hmm.
But they do. At this point, they do. And I think it's just, now it's a tradition for tradition's sake. That's essentially what it is now.
And do we find it kind of ironic, too, that some states have ciphers, some states don't? Some states, like Virginia, prohibit them, but yet I could get one that's legally accessible from another brother in another state that has 99% of the same words, and who are we kidding, right?
Well, and that's kind of a good point, is that, you've got, in my state, there's 2 official rituals. There's the one that's in the Most Worshipful Grand Lodge of Minnesota, but then there's also the Ritual of the Most Worshipful Prince Hall Grand Ledger of Minnesota. Both of those are official works here. So you've already got 2. Multiply that by, how many districts there are, 51. Some of them don't have a Prince Hall Grand Lodge, but now you're already going into magnitudes of, 100 at this point, And then add to that the global Masonic ritual disparate, distinctions that occur, and you almost sit there and you go, we're all speaking different languages. So does it even matter at this point that anybody's writing anything down, because it doesn't even match anywhere.
Do you have the Esperanto translation?
¿Tú vieras en Esperanto?
Oh no.
It's like translations of the Bible at this point.
Yeah.
Or Klingon,
Yes. Oh, ritual cipher in Klingon.
You know what? I would accept that. And Esperanto.
Get on it, nerds.
Actually, I might.
But don't get expelled while doing so.
They wouldn't expel you for actually writing anything down. They just expel you for just being a weirdo. Oh, you're one of those Esperantist types. Out. Go back to the convention, nerd convention.
Go watch Firefly again.
Oh,
dude, Firefly is an amazing show.
It is, let me tell you. Mal is the best, man.
Oh, yeah, he is.
Brown coats.
Okay. Anything else we want to bring up before we switch to social media? I think we kind of covered the pros, the cons. What else you got, Jason?
So here's something really interesting. Even in states that have ciphers, their use, as far as when you can use them and when you can't, can be really strict. So, such as I know in Texas, from speaking to brethren in Texas, that if you have ciphers, you can, if you have unofficial ciphers that you use on lodge property, you can be expelled for it. Well, there is a cipher. There's an unofficial cipher in Texas, and if you use that on lodge property, you can be expelled for it. But even in Massachusetts, the cipher book actually reads like not to be consulted in lodge or during a degree.
And so I understand the purpose behind that, right? You don't want to use it as a crutch. You don't want it as an excuse for laziness, and you want people to do the work, but have this as a reference, right?
Right. So yeah, and even with Pennsylvania and their plain language ritual books, you're not allowed to bring those out in lodge if memory serves. So are the states that have ciphers putting rules into place to govern their usage so that brethren actually learn the work? I think yes.
Interesting.
Okay.
Well, and it's kind of and I should say I should add one last comment, and then we'll get to social media. But and that's kind of the interesting thing about it is that I kind of view ciphers, and this is again this mixture of religion and Freemasonry that gets uncomfortable. But the cipher is really nice because it's not just when you go to a lodge and somebody's explaining the ritual back to you, right? So essentially like a sermon, right? But it's also for home study, right? So I actually don't have my cipher on me here. I have it up near my nightstand. And every night I pull it out and read about 2 pages. 2 pages is about 5 minutes or so. And I glean something new out of that 2 pages. Or I'm reading the cipher book that I have for Knights Templar or Knight Masons or whatever. And I use that as a way to kind of focus my mind on learning about a new subject in a different way. And it's really helpful to use it that way. So it's essentially like a mini Bible. Yeah, I know it's weird to say it, but it's like a mini Bible that you can carry for your Bible study type thing. But you're also going to someplace else, and all of you are discussing it together, trading ideas. And so it's kind of this self-study mixed with group study, and you come up with new, fresher ideas of what the ritual's trying to say. So in that respect, I really do like what the cipher provides, which is this ability to do something at home by yourself and write down questions and question what's going on, and then bring it back to your group and then say, I was looking at this, what do you guys think of this? So that's one of the benefits, I think. I mean, also, it encourages, kind of an independent plus codependent existence with the lodge. So it's kind of nice. But your mileage will vary.
Yep. And, we could go down the path. I'm just going to throw it out there, throw the grenade, and step back. It's not unlike doing ritual with a mentor over the telephone, right? That it's not a secure communication device when you talk over the landline, but that there are people that work ritual in the car while they're talking to their mentor and trying to learn, but those secrets are not really being protected in the truest sense of digital encryption, that kind of sense. So, food for thought. Jason, what are they saying on social media tonight?
All right. As far as social media is concerned, we have had some great conversations tonight. So thank you for everybody who has posted. First off, got to start with our good friend and brother Donnie Dillon, who says, I'm a member of an Esperanto language Freemasonry group. Boom. Nerd cred. Yeah.
Dude, tell me where it is. Because, I'm an Esperantist, so, just hook me up. Send it out on the back end, please.
So, yeah, we'll get it from you, Brother Donnie. And Brother Brad Parsons says, I wouldn't have time, frankly, to memorize a ritual if I only had a one-letter key. Thankfully, Michigan has the whole ritual printed out except for the specific words.
Wow.
That's actually kind of an interesting thing. Is actually I find that I learn more from just having kind of a prompt, and that's kind of what the letter key does. Is it's kind of like a prompt to what the correct word is, and so for me, it helps me. But the funny thing is, I'm an auditory learner, so the cipher functions differently for an auditory learner than it does for somebody else. So probably if I were living in Virginia right now with you guys, I'd probably be master class for that. But here, it's a little bit more read-write type of brain function. And so, the one letter, it's kind of nice as a prompt. But for me, I try and run through the words as fast as I can because I'm doing it by voice and by hearing. So it's kind of I like the cipher, but it's not really the best way to learn for everybody.
I'm hearing you're in favor of video degrees.
Well,
Who isn't?
what was that satire site? Didn't they have a joke about that?
The Netflix degree.
Oh man.
Oh yeah.
Nixon
Pass
favor
bastard.
degrees.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
That's the only way you're gonna. I can hit replay. It's great.
So, well, interestingly enough, I completely agree with Nick because, John, when I disagreed with one of your many points that I disagreed upon tonight, as per usual, when you said, look, having the certain sections of the ritual printed out in the manual of work for Virginia has been a huge help to you. I actually learn much better mouth to ear. And so, like Nick, I'm an auditory learner. And for those parts of the ritual lectures that I've learned where I started off with the written words, I don't retain those nearly as well as those I've been taught from a mentor mouth to ear.
See, I'm like RJ. RJ's mentioned this before. He can read something and then he can tell you, you can recall later, which part of the paragraph it's in. This is on the next line. This word is on the next line. I'm like him. I'm a visual learner, and I can memorize blocks of text that way. So that's how I roll.
You're also weird, so.
Yes, your eye is just blowing my mind with my.
And that could actually be kind of an interesting.
Your synesthesia, yeah.
Well, that could be kind of an interesting episode, not for today, obviously, but the idea of learning styles as it relates to ritual, because I think it really does. States that have certain way of learning are really not helpful for people, but other states that have other ways of learning it, they find that it's very helpful in another state. And I wonder how we can best help people memorize work in their most effective manner, so all of us can get caught up as quickly as possible.
Yeah. So, Brother Nathan Rolfson, first-time commenter as far as I'm aware. Welcome to the show, Nathan. Says the Grand Lodge of Nebraska, AF and AM, first published a cipher in 1986 and revised it in 1994 and 2007. Even after being revised, there are minor errors in the cipher. Any Nebraska Master Mason can purchase a cipher, however, they're prohibited from being used in open lodge, and a lodge that is found twice in violation of that could lose its charter.
Dang.
Yeah.
Don't mess with Texas.
So we're going to write it all down, but
And
don't.
by Texas, we mean Nebraska.
Yeah.
They both have good steak.
So.
Well,
I
I
mean,
think in Texas you can't even, right? You can't even touch a cipher without it burning your skin, isn't that?
right, and that's the funny
Well,
part.
they're mouth-to-ear state, but they have this unofficial Lone Star cipher.
And see, I find that hypocritical. We're going to give you.
It's underground cipher, man.
We're going to give you the kingdom, but you can't use it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just being contrary for contrary's sake. What else, Jason?
So, brother Blake from down under, way down under in Australia, it says all the ritual books in my jurisdiction are plain language, and I wouldn't trade that for the world. That being said, people seem to learn better from the tougher ones. I was able to learn a charge from a jurisdiction using a weird cipher quicker than a comparable one of our own, or the ear-to-mouth method, though that does seem to be the reason our Scottish working lodges are often a surprise, even to the members of the lodge.
Awesome.
So yeah, and kind of finishing us out with Brother Chris Streeper, he says, very interested in the topic. Again, raised in Texas, where those books are known to exist, but are illegal per Texas Masonic Code. They're legal to at least possess in the state of Texas now. He doesn't have one himself. So just it's interesting to see the different jurisdictions and what's acceptable as far as degrees of a printed ritual are concerned.
But you're missing the two greatest comments were those who agree with me, that from Mike Hambrecht and Jacob Bernard, that yes, digitally encrypting these things should be explored for further use and viability. So that's, I don't know, I've got it all figured out up here. It can be done, it can be secure, and it can be owned and controlled by a central authority. So, it's worth the discussion, right?
Of course, John, you realize we didn't discuss the one cipher that any Yorkite Mason may or may not use.
I have a picture of it right here. Stand by.
So you've got it's colloquially known as the Masonic cipher, but it's more widely known as the pig pen.
Yep, here's the cipher right here.
Yes.
Dylan has fully endorsed this message by showing Pigpen from Peanuts.
That's awesome.
All right, that's a nerd joke for the non-Masons, but the Pigpen cipher, or the Freemason cipher, is a very popular encoding mechanism that is easily figured out by high school students in basic math class.
Because they're too busy staring at the cute girl in class. That's usually the problem. So.
Well, they have to encode their messages. No one can be like, "Do you like me?" Check yes or no.
I got a funny story about that offline.
So, John, I think it's about time for us to wrap up, buddy.
Oh man, this is a good discussion, and let's start with Nick to take us home with final thoughts and shameless plugs.
Sure. Honestly, coming from a state that has a cipher, and then I think every state around me has a cipher, I don't know any better. So it's kind of nice. It's kind of one of those things that if you have an allergy to something and somebody says, "Oh, I am so sorry, you can't have peanut butter," you just go, "Dude, I can't eat peanut butter, so I don't care." So it's really kind of cool that other states do this mouth to ear idea, and Actually, when I learned my ritual, I did it mouth to ear, not on purpose, but on accident, because I had a really good mentor named Don who really he's a Marine, and so he really beat it into me. Not physically, maybe a little, but anyway, I learned a ton from him, and it was one of those experiences. But at the same time, I really enjoy being able to crack open the book at 10 o'clock at night, read a couple pages, think about it for a little bit, and then go to sleep and sleep on it. So there's all kinds of advantages. Honestly, because I come from a state that doesn't have to make that decision one way or the other. Um, I don't know if I fully support it because I don't have any other context outside of it. But your mileage will vary, I guess. Is what I'm really saying. So mi amas framasonismo kai cifroi. That's for you, Donnie. That's for you. Nick Johnson.
I'm pressing Masonic charges.
Just when let's just stick to comic books because this can't get any. I'm sorry.
You didn't know I was that much of a nerd. It's getting into deeper levels. It's like Dante's Inferno. We are entering another ring.
Like Inception. It's just the nerd levels go deeper.
It's hurting me.
Nerds within nerds.
Even though I'm sure Donnie's listening to my pronunciation and going, "Oh my God, that's as bad as William Shatner in that one really terrible movie he was in that they did it." So anyway, that's my final thought. Nick Johnson. Esperanto's cool. Learn it.
Thank you, Nick. I guess. Jason.
You remember when we had a show where we talked about Freemasonry? Pepperidge Farm remembers. So, listen, again, as in all things, it's always best to go with your particular jurisdiction's line of thought when it comes to printing out the ritual. There, I can't be sued now. Great. That said, I think ciphers are a cool idea. Washington, D.C. uses one. Massachusetts, Rhode Island use one. It's a great way, again, to ensure ritualistic integrity and consistency in a way that I haven't been able to see with mouth-to-ear states yet. It doesn't mean that there aren't means to ensure that same integrity, in those states. I just have yet to actually see that where it really works well. Honestly, ritual is a great thing, and for me, it doesn't matter how you learn it as long as you learn it, because it really is the keys to the fraternity. It is again the conveyance of the tenets of the fraternity and the way we convey that to the candidates and to ourselves. So with that, I'll give it back to you, John.
Thank you, Jason. In conclusion, whatever we've talked about learning styles and what helps work for them. We've talked about digital encrypted rituals. I think that's my look into the future, where I think that if Freemasonry is going to survive past 2040, if you're not sure if it is, go check out my presentation at the PA Academy of Masonic Knowledge. But look, everything else is digital. We can do encrypted and secure text, especially. So let's just start there. We can look at how. I check out books from the library digitally all the time, and if you don't read them, they will expire. They will self-destruct off your device and be gone. They'll delete themselves. Same thing can be done very easily with basic infrastructure. The next question, the logical extension to that is, well, if you can do that with text, can you do that with video? Can you have a secure encrypted video of the degrees, right? And we joked about the Netflix degrees, but that is really the next extension to that. Could there be a secure portal that a Mason at home or on the privacy of his own device can freshen up on the ritual that he went through, and then can he receive his degrees virtually? Interesting. With that, definitely check out the survey, tinyurl.com/Masonic survey. It is the last week. Get it done by Friday. Tell your friends. The EAs and above only, please. And then finally, Jason and I have been still working on MasonicFinder.com. We have a few little final touches, so consider it in a final beta stage right now, but it's fully usable. RJ's been promoting it on WCY. Go there and share your lodge events for free on MasonicFinder.com. With that, thank you very much for watching, and keep searching for more light. Have a good night.